Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. Well, Black Friday and Cyber Monday weekend did bring some new life to the market. You're going to see that in the video this week. Jumpstart 2022 just came out on Friday, and we're not going to talk about those cards specifically today since we don't really have a baseline for pricing yet. They'll start showing up next week if applicable, but some of those cards are moving other cards in the secondary market. You'll see that in the video. Today we're going to have a $2 threshold. We're not going to discuss a card unless it's moving at least $2 up or down. And quickly before we get into the details, a couple things. I do want to say thank you to one viewer that gave a super thanks for last week's video. That is Richard Judd. Thank you, Richard. And if you want to give a super thanks, you can hit the tab below the video. However, hey, just watching the video, leaving a like, a comment, those things help tremendously as well. The super thankses are always appreciated, but never expected. Thank you again, Richard. Thank you to all the viewers out there. And as always, you can go to FlipsideGaming.com, use that promo code HEROES to save 10% on orders over $10. Currently, you can pick up Jumpstart 2022 there. They now have Phyrexia All Will Be One products open for pre-order too on the site, and they have a whole lot of other things. Remember, if your order's over $100 or consists only of singles, shipping will be free in the United States. Also, whenever you use the HEROES promo code, it does support the channel, which is always appreciated, so thank you. And without any further ado, let's get into it. Let's begin, as we always do, with the Standard Legal Spotlight. We're going to talk about the cards that are Standard Legal moving the most here today, starting with Diabolic Intent. Now, this is the copy from Battle Bonds. It goes down $2.43 this week to $22. This was reprinted in the Brothers War, making it Standard, Pioneer, and Modern Legal. But many new copies are now coming into the marketplace, and those copies are cheaper, so the older copies are starting to come down too, as you can see. In Pioneer, you see this sometimes in Jund's Sacrifice. This is getting more commander play now too, and builds around a number of cards from the Brothers War. Things like Mishra Claimed by Gix, Mishra Tamer of Mcfadden, and Gix Yawgmoth Praetor. Last card moving down in this section is Liliana of the Veil, the Ultimate Masters copy down $207 to $49.28. The Modern Masters 2017 copy is down $294 to $44.97. This was reprinted in Dominaria United, making it Standard and Pioneer legal, but again, also adding a whole bunch of new copies to the marketplace. In Standard, you see this in Grixis Midrange, Mono Black Midrange, and more. Pioneer, this is in Mono Black Midrange, Orzhov Midrange, and more there. And in Modern, it's in Jund. Legacy, this is in Mono Black Pox, so this gets a lot of play, obviously. It's also in a number of commander builds, including Turgrid God of Fright / Turgrid's Lantern. First card moving up today is Brutal Cathar, up $2.62 this week to $6.30. This is the copy for Innistrad Double Feature. In Standard, this is in Azorius Soldiers, Mono White Aggro, and more. But Pioneer is really pushing the card right now. It is in a very popular build there, Mono White Humans. Sometimes you see this in Selesnya Angels too, which is another highly played build. And it's also in Bant Humans there, and other decks as well. It does get a tad bit of commander play too. And the last card in this section is one from the Brothers War. It is Brotherhood's End. It goes up $5.85 this week to $9. This has quickly begun to appear in a number of formats. In Standard, it's in Jund's Sacrifice, Rakdos Midrange, and more. Pioneer, it's showing up in a very popular build there. Is It Phoenix? Also in Is It Thing in the Ice 2. Legacy, it's in Sneak and Show, and I have seen some trying this in other builds in Standard, Pioneer, Legacy, and even Vintage. We'll have to see where it sticks. It's also getting a little commander play too in some builds old and new. I have seen players using this to upgrade the Brothers War commander deck, Mishra's Burnished Banner, while others are putting it in fresh builds around Mishra Eminent One from there. Plus, it's in new commander builds around a Jumpstart 2022 card as well, Kibo Uktabi Prince. That brings us to the Pioneer Legal Spotlight. We have a couple cards going down and a bunch going up. First is Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth from Planar Chaos. This goes down $2.47 this week to $39.45. The card continues to retract after some recent increases, but it gets a lot of play. In Pioneer, it's in Rakdos Midrange and Sacrifice, plus other decks there. Modern, it's in Yawgmoth, Mono Black Coffers. Legacy, you see this in Saltide Depths, Mono Black Pox. Plus, this is a huge commander card in many different builds, including some new ones. It is a good upgrade to the Warhammer 40k commander deck, the Ruinous Powers, and it's in fresh builds around a card from there, Be'lakor the Dark Master. And this is in commander builds around some cards from the Brothers War, like Mishra Claimed by Gix and Gix Yawgmoth Praetor. Last card moving down in this section is Rakdos Lord of Riots, but this is the Ravnica Allegiance Rakdos Guild Kit copy. This particular one only comes in foil. It goes down 318 this week to 1158. So you might remember, this spiked pretty aggressively not too long ago thanks to one of the Warhammer 40k decks that had a demon sub-theme. Again, that deck was the Ruinous Powers, and many players were picking this up to upgrade the deck or add it to fresh builds around a couple cards from there, Be'lakor the Dark Master, and to a lesser degree Abaddon the Despoiler. And on top of that, this does continue to be a popular commander for demon builds, but the market is starting to move on to other things. First card moving up in this section is Hallowed Fountain from Dissension. It goes up $2 to $35.99. This original Shockland lost some value because of the reprinting of the Shocks in Infinity, but some players didn't realize that they just weren't going to be there at Rare. These were a harder pull. Now that that has become apparent, some of these original Shocklands are starting to creep back up again and rebound. Like the whole series of these cards, this one sees extensive play as a part of many builds in Pioneer, Modern, and Commander. Temporal Trespass is back again, up $2.12 this week to $26.50. This is in Pioneer. Is it Phoenix? Like I said earlier, those decks have been performing well again and have been very popular. There was, in fact, an Is it Phoenix 2022 Pioneer Challenger deck that came out recently, and guess what? No copies of this card were included, which means if a player wanted to upgrade that deck and make it competitive, they're going to need copies of this. This also gets a good amount of Commander play, but when you see it there, it's usually in Yuriko the Tiger's Shadow builds. The Great Henge, this is up $2.17 to $63.05. I don't have a lot to say about this card. It's just a solid Commander card. It's found in many different builds in the format. Next, we have Darksteel Forge. Double Masters is up $3.52 to $28.76. The Magic 2014 copy is up $5.18 to $26.25 this week. So this is getting more Commander play now, obviously. It is a good upgrade to the Warhammer 40k Commander deck, Necron Dynasties. It's in fresh builds around a card from there, Imhotep the Stormlord. However, now we have the Brothers War pushing this too. It is a good upgrade to Urza's Iron Alliance and Mishra's Burnished Banner. It's also in new builds around the front-facing commanders for both of those decks, Urza Chief Artificer and Mishra Eminent One. Additionally, this is in builds around cards from the main set too, Urza Lord Protector, Liberator, Urza's Battlethopter, and Urza Prince of Krug. And the last card in this section is everybody's favorite Pioneer card, Renata Called to the Hunt. This is the copy from the list, only there for Strixhaven, so it is hard to find online in high grade, which is why the price has been artificially inflated. In theory, this week it's up $5.92 to $17.77, but in reality, nobody's really paying this price for the card. It does see play in a variety of Commander builds, sure, but you can get other copies of this much cheaper, really just for a few cents. Welcome to the Modern Legal Spotlight. We have some cards going down, some going up. Let's take a look. Thorn of Amethyst. This week we have the Lorwyn copy down $206 to $19.84. This was reprinted as a retro frame artifact in the Brothers War, which is why it's soft. Sometimes you see this in Painter or Monoweight Stoneblade sideboards in Legacy. In Vintage, it's in Prison and Aggro shops. It's also in a number of Commander builds, including one around a card from the Brothers War, Queen Caleb and Krug. Cavern of Souls. This is the copy from the list. It goes down to $13 this week to $60.29. It was reprinted in Double Masters 2022. It's been soft ever since then, but it does get a lot of play still. In Modern, you're going to see this in Amulet Titan, Merfolk, and much more. Legacy, it's in Doomsday, Goblins, and more there. Vintage, it's in Esper Aggro. This is also a big Commander card in lots of decks, and it's getting more play now too. It is another good upgrade to the Ruinous Powers, and it's in fresh builds around Be'lakor the Dark Master, also in Commander decks around the Brothers War card Myril Shield of Argiv. Chalice of the Void, the original Mirrodin copy, is down $2.14 to $60. This is losing a little value after some recent increases. Still a highly played card in Modern, Legacy, and Vintage. In Modern, it's usually in sideboards, but can show up in a main deck here or there too. Legacy and Vintage builds, though, will have it regularly in both. Additionally, this also gets a little Commander play in a variety of decks. Ren and 6, the copy from the list, is down $2.36 this week to $64.69. Another card that was reprinted in Double Masters 2022. Been soft since then. In Modern, this is in 5-color Indomitable Creativity builds. It's also an Omnithocus of Creation and much more. Vintage, you see this in Oath of Druids, 4-color Tempo. And this is in many land-centric Commander builds like Omnithocus of Creation. Ball Lightning, the original copy from the Dark, goes down $2.74 this week to $54.28. Now, this is one of the Magic 30th Anniversary promo cards, but typically, this original copy has a life of its own regardless of other printings. It did creep up recently, however, and now it is retracting some. It does get a little commander play in a number of decks. Thrumming Stone, this is the one from Cold Snap. It goes down to $275 this week to $15.52. And again, another card reprinted in Double Masters 2022. Now, this does get commander play along with cards that can break the deck limitation rules, like Dragon's Approach, for example. But keep an eye on this, because it is seeing play in a commander deck around a new card from Jumpstart 2022. The card is Ash Code of the Shadow Swarm, and those decks run Rat Colony and Relentless Rats. First card moving up in this section is good old Denizen of the Deep. This is the copy from Portal Second Age, going up in theory 206 to 1652. This card has been very turbulent and the pricing has been inflated online due to scarcity. No one's really paying this price for the card. Now it does get a little commander play, but you can get other copies for just a few cents. Maybe some of this bump could be attributed to a new legendary creature from Jumpstart 2022. The creature is Kinesos, Priest of Thassa. It's a new commander for Kraken, Leviathan, Octopus, and Serpent creatures. But then again, regardless of that card existing, this card most likely would have jumped this week due to scarcity online. Vorinclex, Voice of Hunger, the copy from the list. It was only there for Cal time. It goes up $257 this week to $23.45. This is a solid commander card found in a number of decks, including Omnithocus of Mana, for example. Birds of Paradise. This is the copy from Revised. It goes up $295 this week to $27.41. Now, this is being reprinted in the 2022 Extra Life Secret Layer, and it's also going to be in Dominaria Remastered, but this copy is a little dry this week online, and it is moving up after some recent losses. In Modern, you see this in Yawgmoth, Legacy, it's in 5-color Zenith builds, and Maverick, sometimes Alurin too, and it is a highly played commander card in many decks, including some new ones around cards from the Brothers' War, like Tanos the Toymaker, for example. Now we got some bigger movers. Arkham Daxon, the Double Masters copy of $431 to $18.90. The Cold Snap copy goes up $608 this week to $24.70. This is also seeing more commander play now. It's a good upgrade to Mishra's Burnished Banner and Urza's Iron Alliance. It's in new builds around cards from those decks too. Mishra Eminent One and Ashnod the Uncaring from the Mishra deck. Urza Chief Artificer from the Urza deck. It's also in some builds around cards from the main set. Urza Lord Protector and Urza Prince of Krug. Even Arkham Daxon commander builds are getting a little bump in play now due to the new tools they just acquired. Things like Portal to Phyrexia, for example. And the last card in this section is Mycosynth Golem. The list copy is up $414 this week to $27.59. The 5th Dawn copy jumps $16.21 to $42.29. And you guessed it, this is also moving due to an increase in commander play. It is a good upgrade to Urza's Iron Alliance and a new builds around Urza Chief Artificer. Also in commander decks around cards from the Brothers' War main set, Liberator, Urza's Battlethopter, Urza Prince of Krug, Urza Lord Protector, and it's in Megatron Tyrant decks too. That is one of the Transformers cards that can be found in some of the Brothers' War products. That takes us to the Vintage Spotlight. This is where we talk about cards that see play in Legacy, Vintage, or cards that are just popular among collectors this week. Now, in this section of the video, at least for some cards, the price you see on the screen is going to be a little more reminiscent of what you might see on a price tracking website. And that's because, at least in those examples, those particular cards did not see a lot of sales this week online. So we do have to lean a little bit harder on asking price. Typically, these are the harder to find cards in high grade. Remember, too, when it comes to the older, more iconic Magic cards, the price you see on the screen might fall somewhere in between the price of a high-grade raw and high-grade graded copy. But if the price there does not fall in between those cards, somewhere towards the middle, or if just in general the price you see in this section is not lining up with what I'm seeing for recent sales, I will point that out. First, we have Intuition from Tempest. It goes up $2 to $170. This is in Legacy Omnitel. Also gets a little commander play in many different decks. Mox Opal for Modern Masters 2015. It goes up $216 this week to $75.25. In Legacy, this is in Painter, 8-cast, and more. Vintage, you see this in Paradoxical Outcome in 8-cast. But as you could probably assume by now, Commander is pushing this too. It is another good upgrade to Urza's Iron Will and Mishra's Burnished Banner. It's also a new commander builds around Urza Chief Artificer and Mishra Eminent One. Plus it is in some commander decks around cards from the main set, like Urza Lord Protector and Urza Prince of Krug. Mycosynth Lattice, the Battle Bond copy is up $233 to $40. The Darksteel copy is up $281 to $42.98. In Legacy, this is in sideboards of Bomberman, Colorless Cloudpost, and more. Vintage, it's in Prison Shop sideboards. And as you could imagine by now, the Brothers' War is pushing this too because of Commander. It is a good upgrade to Urza's Iron Alliance and Mishra's Burnished Banner again. It's in Fresh Builds Runner as a Chief Artificer from the Urza deck, and Ashnod the Uncaring, as well as Mishra Eminent One from the Mishra deck. Also in Commander decks are on cards from the main set. You know him and love him by now, Urza Lord Protector and Urza Prince of Krug. Plus, it's another card showing up in early Commander builds around one of those cards from Jumpstart 2022 again, Kibo Uktabi Prince. Mox Diamond from Stronghold goes up 502 to 624.99. In Legacy, this is a Naya Depths, lands, and more. This is also found in many different Commander builds, including a new one, Gix Yawgmoth Praetor. Mana Crypt, the double Masters copy up 286 to 182.30. The original book giveaway media promo goes up $551 this week to $330.30. Now, it is worth noting that Wizards did sell more Mystery Booster Convention Edition boxes as part of a secret layer called Festival in a Box, so there are more copies of Mana Crypt circulating out there right now, but this goes in lots of Commander decks, and it is a good upgrade to the Heads I Win Tails You Lose Secret Layer Commander deck. On top of that, it's now found in many Urza Lord Protector Commander builds as well. And in Vintage, you see this in 4-color Tinker, Paradoxical Outcome, and more. Plateau from Revised goes up $5.60 this week to $319.99. Okay, so we've talked a lot about these revised dual lands and how the Magic 30th Anniversary Edition has been impacting them recently. I won't make you sit through all of that again, but if you're interested, just go back to any of our past few videos. Now that the sale of that product, which I'm sure you heard all about this week, has come to an end, most of these are beginning to rebound. You're going to see a number of them in this section of the video this week. Maybe that's because it appears that a lot less of the product went out than people originally anticipated. Again, we don't really know anything about numbers, just a little suspicious activity the way Wizards announced the conclusion of the sale. Again, you probably heard about all this, but the question remains, will this product emerge somewhere else in the future? If they printed it, probably. But anyway, by that point, will people care anymore? Who knows? Maybe when that happens, it won't be enough hype to impact prices of cards like this anymore. Time will tell. Of course, these all see a ton of play in Legacy, Vintage, and Commander. Gaia's Cradle from Urza's Saga of $576 this week to $895. So this has lost a lot of value over the last year or so, but it is creeping up a little bit this week. In Legacy, this is an Elves, sometimes Maverick. Vintage, it's an Hogak Vine, Squee Hollow Vine. Plus, it is a fantastic Commander card in a lot of decks. Counterspell from Unlimited up 1033 this week to 94.89. Tropical Island from Revised up 1052 to 552.59. Sunglasses of Urza from Unlimited up $12.26 to $90.98. Maybe a little more interest this week because of the Urza reference. Scrubland from Revised up 1940 to 349.99. Anka Mishra from Unlimited, maybe a little more interest because of the Mishra reference. Up 24.38 to 99.72. Underground Sea from Revised up 29.36 to 799.99. Brain Geyser from Unlimited up 38.16 to 208.15. Sorceress Queen from Arabian Nights up 41.83 to 204.19. Pyramids up 51.82 this week to $225. Mahamadi Jinn from Unlimited goes up 61.92 this week to $397.65. Volcanic Island from Revised goes up 72.74 to $803.74. Savannah from Unlimited goes up $80.72 to $749.99. Bazaar of Baghdad. Okay, in theory, going up $433.92 this week to $3,597.98. Is that for real? No, this price is inflated due to high asking prices. High-grade Raws can go for about $23.50 now. A graded 9 recently sold for just over $2,700. Mox Ruby from Unlimited. This in theory goes up $1,844 to $7,999.99. Is that real? Well, I'll tell you, Power 9 prices are really just whatever someone is willing to pay at that time. Since there's not many for sale at any given time, not a lot of sales happen, especially when it comes to high-grade copies. So it is hard to pin down a true value. Basically, the increases and decreases you usually see from week to week are based on different asking prices for different cards. And remember, any given week you could have different grades of copies out there for sale. More could be graded one week compared to the previous week, things like that. Now, I did see a moderately played raw copy sell for $4,000 not too long ago, so maybe that at least gives you an idea. And the last card in this section is Black Lotus. This is the one from Unlimited going up $2,500 to $21,999.99. Is that real? Well, same story here. Being another Power 9 card, being the Magic card, it is very hard to put a price on this thing. I will tell you though, I did see a graded 7 sell for $15,000 recently. So again, maybe that gives you an idea. And that brings us to the Commander Spotlight. So all the cards in this section are moving, at least in part because of Commander, but there could be other factors as well. And in some cases, Commander might not even be the key driver, but I'll let you know as we go through. Jet Medallion, the copy from the list. It goes up $217 this week to $36.93. Now this is getting reprinted in the Post Malone Secret Lair, so keep that in mind. It does get a lot of Commander play though in mono black and heavy black builds. It's in new builds in the format now too, like Gix Yawgmoth Praetor. Survival of the Fittest from Exodus goes up $224 this week to $256.49. This shows up in a variety of different Commander decks, and I have seen some using this to upgrade the Warhammer 40k Tyranid Swarm deck, or put it in fresh Commander builds around a card from there, Magus Lucia Kane. Additionally, this gets a good amount of play in the pre-modern format, and that format has been pushing card prices more lately. Crypto Thrall is back again, up $239 this week to $11.98. This is from the Warhammer 40k Necron Dynasties deck. It is in a lot of new Commander builds around cards from there. Imhotep the Stormlord, Zarek the Silent King, Trazyn the Infinite, Illuminator Zurus. But the Brothers War, of course, is pushing this in Commander now too. It's a good upgrade to Urza's Iron Alliance, and a new builds around Urza Chief Artificer. I've also seen this in Commander decks around cards from the main set. Liberator, Urza's Battlethopter, Mishra Tamer of Macfawa, Urza Prince of Krug, and it is another card used at times in builds around Megatron Tyrant. Sylvan Tutor from Portal. It goes up $244 this week to $79.90. It does get a little Commander play in different builds, but now I am seeing some using this in a Commander deck around a card from Jumpstart 2022. Again, that is Kinestos, Priest of Thassa. Next is Preacher, up $268 this week to $65.95, and it is rebounding a little bit after some recent losses. Gets a little Commander play. And the last card in this section is Reaver Titan. This goes up $368 this week to $1040. It is from the Forces of the Imperium Warhammer 40k deck, and of course it is in fresh builds around a couple cards from there. Inquisitor Greyfax, Amarnius Kelgar. But aside from that, I see this used as an upgrade to one of the other Warhammer 40k decks, the Ruinous Powers, plus it's in new builds around Abaddon the Despoiler from there. And as you might have guessed, the Brothers War is also having an impact here. It is another card you might want to upgrade Mishra's Burnished Banner with, or you might want it in a new build around Mishra Eminent One. And that takes us to the Premium Spotlight. So every week there's premium cards spiking and dipping rather aggressively in this part of the market. We can't possibly cover it all, but I do like to pick at least one card to discuss whenever possible. Today, I do have just the one card. And as you know, I like to choose something that feels like maybe the movement is substantial, maybe it's an indicator of further movement, not a card that necessarily just got bought out, or a card that's just dry for the week. So let's look at what I selected this time. It's not a big percentage increase, but I thought it was kind of interesting because we did see the copy from Urza's Saga of this card moving as well. Gaia's Cradle, the Judge Foil. It's up $64.99 this week to $2,837.47. Is that price even for real though? Well, a graded 9 sold recently for just a little more than this price. High grade raws do sell for less than this obviously, but the price does feel pretty close. We'll have to see in the future if this is truly an indicator of the card going up after some losses this year. And that is going to do it for this episode of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. If you're still with me at the end, hey, thank you. Thanks for being here. I appreciate that. Until next time, though, hey, stay safe out there. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible through the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page, as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.